Okay. Yeah, that's it. I'm accustomed to a small crowd. But anyway, the name of the presentation is Inspiring an Interest in Cultural Awareness in Mathematics Classes Using Biographies of Senior Professors. And I do this because a lot of students have not met people who have navigated all the way to the top in technical areas, in STEM professions, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And my concern when I talk to Dr. Saylor, what are the attributes of your personality or your study habits that help to guarantee that you will be sustained and persistent in the program? And he answered the question, so I will show you the video. But one of the senior mathematicians that had a lot to do with my career is Dr. Layron Clarkson. He received his PhD in mathematics, continuing fractions at UT, one of the first African American men to get a PhD in pure mathematics at University of Texas in Austin. One of his interests was topology. Topology, during his era, he's 88 years old, was dominated by a great research professor, R.L. Moore, who had a lot of traditional views, old-fashioned views that women and minorities may not be able to do topology. So Clarkson said that when he was at UT, he was not allowed to attend the classes of R.L. Moore, but he would hang outside the door and kind of peep in and take notes. And then he said one day he heard R.L. Moore announce that he had written a book, and it had been published by AMS. So he ordered that topology book and studied topology from Moore's book. And so that shows you the kinds of times we've lived in and how we've advanced over the years. Now what's interesting is that I took my first serious math class from Clarkson, and can you see that he seems to be pretty serious? And I was 19 years old, and I had never really made a bad grade in math. I call a C a bad grade. And when I took trigonometry from Clarkson, I made my first C. And I always said, because I'm a determined person, I said, I want to be able to someday impress Dr. Clarkson, because I was just hurt that he gave me my first C on my transcript at TSU in the 60s. But I never forgot him. Now, I'll tell you the end of that story later with the last slide. Don't forget, I told you that Clarkson shocked me with his serious, pure approach at proving everything by giving me my first what? C. Now, let's keep going. Clarkson did move around at the national level. However, during his era, he was unable to participate on the Board of Governors for the Mathematical Association of America, although they knew he was qualified, and they did have him as chairman of the subcommittee for minority affairs for the MAA. And he dominated on the national level from 1960 to 2000. And what's tragic, in my opinion, is that although they knew he had the qualifications, the intellect, and the style, and the sophistication, he was not able to be elected to the Board of Governors in his era. Now, Clarkson sort of slowed down in 2000. And by some, if you don't mind the word, miracle, I was nominated to be elected to the Board of Governors in 2000. So the very man who gave me my first C ended up being part of sort of a genealogy in presence at MAA. And in a way, I was able to go one level higher only because the Times elected to the board. So a lot has happened. Now let's keep going. But he's historical, and I have so much respect. Now he's shown here at Texas Southern University after making a presentation for the business school, indicating how important it is to have quantification models even in business decision making. There were people who got BBAs who didn't have a lot of mathematics in their curriculum. But lately, we have courses called like econometrics, mathematical economics, biometrics, biomathematics. You follow me? We're doing interdisciplinary things where we highlight the importance of modeling and the use of mathematics and analytical thinking in those professions. So he gave a talk at the business school pointing out that some of the CEOs that he knows who are minority, who are mathematicians, and who had the kind of personality to negotiate in the corporate world did much better because of their knowledge of mathematics. And one lady is a millionaire because she was able to be paid for her knowledge in the corporate sector. And I did go hear him give that talk. Well, this is me. Does that look like me? And I was mentored by a number of senior mathematicians at Texas A&M College Station. And I did do a video which I'd like for you to hear. Okay? Let me come here and click the button, make sure everything works. Now, the reason why this was put together was for this presentation, as well as the fact that I've been nominated as an outstanding graduate of the College of Science and Mathematics at Texas A&M College Station. And they needed some kind of portfolio, so we provided this video. There's my cursor, and there's my little button. Let's see. Now, this is what I sent in with a lot of other...
I want to take this time to express my gratitude for the exposure and preparation I received at Texas A&M College Station between 1984 and 1989. I never will forget Dr. Larry Gussman, who helped me gain admission to the College of Science Mathematics Department under Dr. Elton Lacey. It may have been a bit unusual for an African-American woman to study full-time at Texas A&M College Station, but it gave me an opportunity to do what I had always dreamed of doing, learning mathematics at the highest level, and to be in an environment where I could not only learn the theory, but even apply the mathematics to real-life situations. I want to express gratitude to Dr. Darrell Hartfield, who did serve as my advisor for my master's degree. I want to thank Dr. Trabig, Bruce Trabig, for teaching me a subject that I always wanted to know, topology. I want to thank so many who encouraged me and challenged me. I'll always remember that when I defended my master's degree in 1986, a question was posed in that meeting. What are you going to do with this mathematics? And I remember answering that I would take the mathematics to environments that may have limited access to that level of understanding. And I can surely say that I have done so. It has been a joy to teach at Texas A&M while also studying for my master's and on the doctorate. Although I did not matriculate for the doctorate, I did study the doctoral subjects. It was a pleasure to learn and then have a chance to share that knowledge in Houston Community College System since 1989 at University of Houston Downtown and also at Texas Southern University. So nothing was lost. All things worked together for good. While I studied at Texas A&M, the Voices of Praise Choir selected me as their advisor, and I served as their advisor for 2 years. And because I was in the presence of young people, undergraduates, I can truly say that my presence helped to inspire them to persist and be determined to get their degrees in the STEM professions, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I served on the board of governors for the Math Association of America. I served there for 3 years. I am presently on the editorial board for the Mathematical Association of America's Focus magazine. And in the January 2013 issue, there is an article on page 13 that I wrote, where I interviewed Dr. Layron Clarkson, a historical mathematician, now 88 years old, and who led in helping to create avenues of access for minorities by serving on the Subcommittee for Minority Affairs. I am presently on the board of directors for the National Association of Mathematicians. And again, my presence signals that we can do it. And that also helps to inspire the next generation to do it in the STEM professions. So I do hope that my nomination will be seriously considered, because I believe it will sound the drums, a call to action in a community that may not have access to some environments, but who I believe, if given the opportunity, will achieve and do great things. Thank you, Professor Jacqueline Brannon Giles, Texas A&M University, class of '86.
Okay. This is Dr. Rod Holmes, mentored by Dr. Willie Taylor. What's interesting is that Dr. Willie Taylor and Dr. Rod Holmes both attended Worthing High School in HISD. And to date, the only two African American men who have received PhDs in mathematics from U of H Central are Dr. Rod Holmes and his mentor, Dr. Willie Taylor. And they both graduated from Worthing High School, which at this time in history may be a little bit academically challenged, but at one point back in the 60s, it produced some outstanding math students, okay? Dr. Rod Holmes teaches adjunct at HCC, and he also teaches at Texas Southern University. Oh, and by the way, his father was a professional football player with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is Super Bowl weekend. And part of the Steel Curtain, if you ever heard of that. Mean Joe Green, his daddy, Holmes, Ernie Holmes. So a smart football player can produce a smart mathematician, okay? This is Dr. Willie Taylor, historical mathematician, the first African-American man to get a PhD in mathematics from U of H Central. And he just loves students. There was an area at Texas Southern where students would just hang around him all day. He has strong rapport with students. And he's produced a number of people who decided to get their masters and PhDs in mathematics. He used to work with us adjunct, but he's presently a professor at Texas Southern University. He's historical. Now, this is a video that I made of Dr. Taylor, and I let him know I was going to show it at this presentation. So we'll click on it and hope that it accesses the YouTube production. I'd like for you to enjoy this. I did this with my eye.
We're interviewing Dr. Willie Taylor, a historical mathematician who graduated University of Houston with a PhD in mathematics. And he's published more than 44 research articles. Professor, would you tell us some of the attributes of your personality or your study habits that you believed helped you to start and finish your PhD in mathematics?
Determination.
Determination.
And wanting to be a college professor, which I developed that idea when I was a student at Purdue. I saw the professor sitting around the office drinking coffee, and I said I wanted to do that.
You're not getting messed with
They told me I needed a PhD.
Determination, and he saw some professors drinking coffee, and he said, I want to do that. And they said the only way you can do that is to get the
I realized I had to have a strong background. And so I developed the idea of when I didn't know something, I would always go back and find it to strengthen my background. And that's what would help me.
Right.
Okay.
It's already.
So if you had a cognitive gap, you'd go on your own.
Yes.
And review or learn the concept.
Yes.
So what about social habits? Did you change your social life in order to...
No. That was no change.
In other words, you still had fun to do your music?
Yes.
Tell us what kind of music you used to do as a hobby.
Well, when I was in high school, I was a part of a jazz combo. The finite set, is what we call ourselves.
Okay.
And,
that has a mathematical flavor to it.
Yes, it does. And I played keyboard for the group. And when I went to Prairie, I didn't want to major in mathematics. I went to major in music.
When you went to Prairie, you went to major in music.
Music was my first love.
Okay.
Math was my second love. But because Purdue in the 60s did not have a jazz program, I decided I didn't want to just do the classical music program. So I went into math instead. Have not regretted it.
Okay.
I'm glad I went into math, but not supposed to. did not do. So undergraduate was not to be in math; it was to be in music. So it was sort of a second choice.
How did you select U of H Central to do your doctoral study?
Since I was here in Houston and had always been here in Houston, Prairie View, close. Just close.
Did you do any research on the environment because in some of the national meetings with NAM, they sometimes suggest that young PhD candidates select a welcoming environment, an environment with a history of graduating PhDs in mathematics.
Well, but remember now, this is back in the 60s.
Okay.
So there wasn't many black PhDs around, and not in mathematics anyway.
Okay.
And so the idea of studying an environment before I go do it, no, it was just convenient.
Would you call yourself intellectually aggressive?
No.
No. But okay, you ever had a tough problem you couldn't solve right away? Did you hang in there and keep persisting?
Yes.
I consider that some type of aggression.
Okay.
Okay, anything else you'd like to tell the next generation of teachers of mathematics or of any subject?
Know your content.
Know your content.
This seems to be the biggest problem. The students that we get seem to have no content. And there seems not to be getting it in the high schools. And I'm blaming that on the teachers in the high schools. Mm-hmm. So know your content very well.
All right. Well, thank you, Doctor. And I know you're going to produce more proteges.
So.
How many have you produced so far?
Well, Dr. Roderick Holmes got his PhD in mathematics from the University of Houston. Was a student in my class, and we sort of developed rapport.
Excellent.
Other students that went on and got doctorates with Dr. Joan Evans, Dr. Pamela Dinkin, and the other guy. Mustafa.
Mustafa?
Actually went to in Florida and got his PhD at Central Florida. Can't remember his last name. It's so long ago. But I have so many people out here. Bashrat, which is at HCC. So many.
Now, who was your mentor and advisor at U of H?
Dr. Garrett Etchen.
Okay.
E-T-G-E-N, Etchen.
I've heard that name. And in high school, was there anybody who inspired you to study more mathematics?
Jeremiah Wright. When I was at Worthy High School.
Well, did he get a chance to say, or see rather, that you actually got your PhD? Did you get a chance? Did you go back and have a conversation with him?
I've seen him since I got it.
What was his perception of all this?
He's just happy.
Just happy.
Yeah. In fact, we just celebrated our 50th high school reunion. He wasn't there, but one of my mathematics teachers was there. Rosalind James was there, and she was happy to hear that the two PhDs in math, black, that got PhDs in math at UH, both finished Worthy.
What did you say that again, please?
The only two black male PhDs to get PhDs in mathematics at UH finished Worthing High School.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, now, what I learned from that, determination. Another thing, you must learn how to learn. He said he'd go back and fill in his cognitive gaps. He would either learn the concept on his own or review on his own in order to be competitive in mathematics, okay? So that means you have to take the initiative to be a good math person. You can't expect to be spoon-fed all the time. You've got to put in the personal energy to do your mathematics. John, do you agree? Okay. And he was very honest in saying that he would advise the next generation to do what? Know their content. Know their math content. That is precisely why when I applied to the PhD program at Texas A&M, I wanted to go in mathematics to strengthen my content. They kept trying to whisper, go to education. I said, no, I can do education. I'm naturally a teacher. I want the content. And we argued. Yes, I did pure mathematics. But I'm saying to you, the culture there at A&M in the year I went, they said, well, don't you, they knew I could teach because I was teaching some classes. Don't you want to do math ed? No. I want to get exposed to as much what? High-level mathematics so my content will be strong because I believe I already have a teaching personality. That makes sense to you all? And I had to argue that case over and over. All right, let's keep going. Now, let's see. How do we get back to our power presentation without destroying everything? Hit escape? Escape? Okay. I want to go back to our PowerPoint presentation. Huh? Okay. So we might have to, yeah. Yes, sir. Okay. Now we want to pick up from that slide, right? Okay. Okay, wait a minute. I go click right and don't want to mess up nothing. Okay, now let's move to the next slide. Okay. Now, this young lady was in my Cal 2 class at night. I like to teach the night classes because I get stronger students sometimes, more mature. Did you notice that, John? Okay. So many years ago, she was in my class. She was an engineering major. Well, I saw something in her. And I suggested that she go over to TSU and meet Dr. Willie Taylor. Because she was married and she couldn't leave town, but I thought that she could do mathematics. So what happened is, I'm giving a little credit to HCC that she did take her Cal 2 at HCC. Then she went over to TSU. Now she heads a math outreach program at U of A Central. She was mentored by Dr. Willie Taylor. All I did was encourage Beverly to consider a major in math. After she met Dr. Taylor, he guided her in the mathematical study, okay? But so that means that the pipeline can have a better flow if we take an interest in a student, see their gift, and maybe send them to the right person who can help them matriculate and go all the way to the top, okay? Now, her name is Mrs. Beverly Brown. She received her BS and MS in mathematics from Texas Southern University. She was mentored by Dr. Willie Taylor during her studies for the bachelor's degree. Then she was mentored and supervised by Dr. Victor Obat. Are y'all familiar with Dr. Obat? Okay. Her title is, at this time, at U of A Central, Director of Outreach, University of Houston, Mathematics. So we have a few success stories. And now, this is the article that I wrote on Dr. Layron Clarkson, 88 years old. At the bottom of it, you'll see my credit, Jacqueline Brannon Giles, former Governor at Large, Minority Affairs, MAA Board of Governors. And it is in the Focus magazine for the Math Association of America. It was in the December-January issue. I want to share this with you because I mentioned at the beginning that I took my trade course at 19 years old. By the way, I'm 69 years old. From Dr. Clarkson. And he gave me my first C. And I didn't like that. And I'm a determined, persistent little old lady and little girl. And I said, oh, I just hope someday I can do something to get the respect of Dr. Clarkson. But look at how many years it took for me to be positioned on MAA's Focus editorial board to finally come into the presence of Dr. Clarkson, interview him, get the article placed in a national magazine. I thank him for that C. Because that C made me what? Work harder. And so that's what that article means to me. But look at how many years it took me to be positioned and be cognitively strong enough to even sit with an 88-year-old historical mathematician, interview him, write the article, and send it in and get it published. You with me? So that's an example of what? Determination and persistence. And any of you who have gotten your doctorates or your degrees knows that's what it takes. And for some reason, this generation doesn't seem to have the passion, in my opinion, and I like to survey you, the passion for learning like my generation. Remember, I'm 69, and I'm a child of the what? 60s and the 50s. I'm a Sputnik baby. The only reason the door opened for me to study mathematics under a National Science Foundation grant in the 8th and 9th grade was that when the United States thought it was losing the space race, they created NSF grants for high school students to go to summer institutes for 6 weeks at universities to study pure math to see whether they could do pure math. So I was sent to Prairie View in my 8th grade, and I studied under the professors there. And I'll never forget the first year. There were 30 of us, and by the way, it was prejudice in those days, so there were 30 black students. They did not integrate. They sent us to Prairie View, and they ranked us. And that first year, I ranked number 2. And Curtis Wood, who lived on the campus of Prairie View and whose parents were professors, he ranked number 1. I came back home and told my father, I want to be a mathematician. I want to be able to compete with people like Curtis Wood. Daddy, His parents are professors. He can go to the library anytime he wants. So my daddy bought me the encyclopedias, the unabridged dictionary, anything I wanted to help me supplement the old textbooks that they used at my high school. Because in the days that I went to high school, the old textbooks from the other high school would be transported to what? My high school. They didn't give us the new textbooks, but my father supplemented. Next thing, I was sent by Dr. Edgar Henry to Prairie View the second year. Remember now, I was ranked number 2, and I didn't like being number 2. I go down the second year. In the second year, they picked the top 30 African-American students to study at Prairie View. In the dormitory, we lived for 6 weeks, studied under professors studying what we called modern math or pure math. This time, Garland Wood, the brother of Curtis Wood, was in the class. And he was trying to establish a family legacy. But here I am, Jackie Brown. Well, I ranked number 1 that year. Garland said, you messed up my family legacy. I was supposed to be number 1. I'm a determined person. Okay? But I would not have been exposed to higher level mathematics if Sputnik hadn't gone up and shaken America. You with me? It seems like when we reach a crisis, we open the door and be more welcoming when we realize we're not ranking very well in international competition. So maybe it's time for the door to fly open again, because we ranked number 32 according to CNBC radio. We ranked number 32 in terms of comparing us with other nations in math competencies. They're probably talking about math competencies at, say, the exit high school level. Is that right? Would you think so? But we don't rank very high. How can we continue to be a world power if we don't what? Get more competent in STEM professions. Is that right? Because military stuff is correlated to STEM stuff. Okay. So anyway, I'd like for you to respond to the presentation and say something and tell me what about your personality helped you negotiate mathematics and science or engineering, and what would you advise the next generation? John?
I think the things you said are plainly true, right? It's perseverance.
Mm-hmm. Perseverance.
It's a passion for the subject. It's a willingness to go out and learn on your own. Mm-hmm. And, Dr. Taylor, whom I'm pleased to say I've met, he would probably recognize him maybe. Mm-hmm. Great guy, things he was saying. The next generation of instructors, I think it's so important what he said about content, which does not seem to be what's being pushed.
Exactly.
So I think an honorary contrarian is ours. And I think being an honorary contrarian helps you to become a young person.
Define that for me. I like that term.
You know what you care about, and you know what's important, and so you know what with the rest of the world. And sometimes that's the attitude you have to have when you study mathematics. So if you really want my opinion, I guess that's it.
All right. I do want your opinion. Yes, sir.
Well, the courses I teach, there's a math foundation for technology. Mm-hmm. Science courses, and that's where I find a lot of weaknesses in both math and English. Mm-hmm. And both of them are problems to teach technology. And the problem I see is largely our public schools. And we see all the regard to the statistics about how poorly America does. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure what the solution is, but I'd like to see us go back and teach some of the things that they taught me when I was in.
And what are some of those things? That's a good idea.
Well, for example, mm-hmm.